Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Growing and using herbs of various kinds. And we're talking specifically about medicinal herbs in this case. One of the things I've really noticed especially in more recent years, and maybe it's always been a thing. I mean, there's always a thing with something. There's always a fad. There's always some kind of food fad or drink fad or dress fad or makeup fad. Everything has a fad, and fads come and go. Diet fads. Well, medicinal herbs are no different. So what happens is somebody will share, maybe they're learning about different herbs, or maybe somebody's growing a specific herb that most people have never even heard of, and they start sharing the benefits of it. And then all of a sudden, everybody gets on board and feels like they have to have it. And then everybody is asking everybody else, have you heard of this? This is great stuff, and blah, 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 blah. Nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting that down. But the thing with a lot of these fads is that sometimes people start feeling like, because of the way so many people start talking about it, like one of the latest ones is soursop, which is actually a fruit. The fruit and the leaves are used. I know very, very little about it. I've never tried it. It is a tropical fruit. It does not grow here. It is not something you can commonly find in stores anywhere around here. Everybody's just going crazy about all the health benefits of soursop. But how many of you can grow it? How many of you can easily just run down to the store and get it? Maybe it is excellent for these different health benefits, but surely you can find something that you can either grow or easily access in your own area that has all these same benefits. I've come to a point when it comes to what I grow medicinally that I'm kind of done adding certain types of herbs that have the same job. And even out of the ones I already grow and have started growing and have been fairly successful with, I'm finding there are those that are perennials that pretty much just grow in the wild, that I don't have to always depend on the annuals, that I have to start early, because in our cold, wet climate, the seed that falls tends to drown and die and rot away before it can spring back in the spring. And so some of these things are becoming more and more pointless for me to keep growing. Certain ones I will keep doing, but I also no longer feel that pressure to always make sure I have a lot of this. If it's an annual or an herb that grows as an annual in our area, or if it's even a perennial that tends to be a little temperamental because of our colder weather and incredibly high amounts of rain. Now, some people that maybe live in the Appalachians or however you pronounce it, as I always say, potato, potato. I don't care. You know what I mean. Some people, they can get a lot of rain in some of those places, but they're only a third of what we get. They might grow echinacea beautifully, but here it can be a battle sometimes. Now, I have a really great echinacea plant. I used to have more. All it takes is one little thing for that plant to die and never come back again. And this year, the last 2 years, I've tried starting echinacea, and I get them to start, they sprout, they start growing, and then all of a sudden they up and die. And I haven't been able to get plants to carry over. And I've kind of come to a point where it's like, I love echinacea. It's always been one of my favorite herbs. I mostly use the flower petals and the leaves. And it is great for building the immune system and so many other things. However, there are other things I don't have to fight with every year. Like once I started growing the black elderberry, I don't have to fight with it. I have to fight with the birds to keep them off of it. But usually they'll leave the flowers alone, and the flowers have just about as many, and I get tons of flowers, just about as many health benefits as the berries. I can depend on the black elderberries to keep coming back every year without any issue, whereas I never know what my echinacea is going to do. And I'm sad that I only have one plant. The last 2 years, or 3 years, I've only had one plant. And it's disappointing. And I can't seem to get my young ones, or, my new ones I start, to carry over to stay alive long enough to replace the ones I've lost. So my point is, there's nothing wrong with learning about, new herbs, new fruits, or vegetables or nuts that can be good for various things. Like me, I love Brazil nuts. Do Brazil nut trees grow here? No. So even though I'm using the Brazil nuts right now as a selenium, supplement, that's my selenium supplement. I also have eggs. I have chickens that produce eggs. So I could live without the Brazil nuts, but it's also a good excuse for me to have Brazil nuts every day because I love them. So I will continue to stock up on them as long as I'm able. For about 15 years, my gardening technique has been throw a bunch of seeds in the dirt and see what sticks, then plant more of that. Exactly. So what Billy said there about just throwing seeds in the ground and see what grows instead of constantly fighting for stuff. Now, there was things that were important for me, like, the mullein is still kind of an issue. It's still because of our climate. I did get some to grow, but I still have to start seeds inside. The seed that falls from the plant does not automatically just start new plants. Same thing with calendula. Other people go, oh yeah, my calendula reseeds and I get new plants every year. It doesn't happen that way here. It just doesn't. Seeds get waterlogged and they won't sprout. Maybe in a lot of cases, we're just not getting a good enough freeze in the winter for them to stratify, because some should be stratified. I'll keep trying to grow mullein, but here's the deal. I do have other plants that I can find around. I can go down to our other piece of property, and I've done this many times and I'll keep doing it, or anywhere around here. Every time I'm driving around anywhere here, I'm like, oh, look, there's more usnea. Those people don't even realize what's hanging off their trees. And usnea has very similar benefits to mullein. If I have to keep fighting with mullein to get it to grow, I'll just change my focus to those things. I'll try for a little longer. I do have a plant out here that's alive that I had started from seed last year, and we'll see how it does. And there may be a couple more. And then I'm hoping that I can get some flowers, get seeds from that will be even more acclimated, not just to our general climate area, but to my own little growing microclimate. And if that works good for me, great. If not, I can go get mullein or usnea without having to work to grow it. I just have to do the work to gather it. That's it. And so I guess that's what I want to say is that, yes, learn about, try new things. Nothing wrong with that. That's how I got marshmallow to grow. Took me a couple of years. Now it grows like a weed in my area. Same thing with valerian. Took me a couple of years to find out, well, I got to sand the seeds a little bit and then they'll germinate better, and then they'll sprout and they'll grow. And now I get new valerian plants popping up. Valerian and marshmallow are perennials. I don't have to start them fresh every year. Mullein is a biennial. So you got to make sure that in a year it flowers, you save those seeds and start them again early the next year, because the one that's flowering is not going to come back. It's only good for 2 years. So you got to constantly be starting new ones. The marshmallow and the valerian, yeah, they'll fall to the ground and sprout again. But the calendula and the echinacea and what else was I talking about? Certain other ones don't do that. The mullein, I have to start them inside early the next year for them, or in the greenhouse, for me to get any plants out of them. So there may come, I'll keep doing the calendula. I'll keep doing, like I started a ton of calendula this year. I'll keep doing the mullein as, at least for another year or two. But if there ever comes a point where I'm just like, I don't have the time or the energy to mess with this stuff, I'm going to keep focusing on the things I don't have to worry about. I never have to worry about dandelion or plantain or comfrey. And these are excellent herbs with just a plethora of health benefits. Typically, I don't have to worry about yarrow, but for some reason, I did lose the last of my yarrow plants a couple of years ago. But now I've got new yarrow that I started both from seed last year and some starts that I bought from Azure Standard. I guess my point in all this is to really learn about what you can grow easily, because there's nothing wrong with trying things or buying some of these other things. There could be a point where you can't get those things anymore, or you can't grow these things at all. Why continue fighting with it when you can just learn about what grows for you in your own area that has the same health benefits? Now, I do like having several herbs that do roughly the same thing. So, for example, I was mentioning the dandelion and the yarrow and the comfrey and the plantain. These are all very, very excellent herbs for skin healing and general skin health. And others would be honeysuckle, camellia, and marshmallow. These are all things I can grow easily. But the other things not as easily would be like calendula, pansies. I do have pansies that come back every year, but usually just one or two of my plants. Love them. But if it ever came right down to it, I'm not going to keep hassling with the pansies. And violets are great. They're perennial, and they do shoot off seeds that just keep making more and more plants every year. But they're a pain. They're so tiny. They're hardly worth, you can use the leaves too, but they're kind of hardly worth it. For me, I would rather focus on the things I don't even have to worry about. I don't have to put the work and time and energy into it. And arnica, oh, thank you for that one. I was worried I wasn't going to get arnica, but now that I finally had that year, I got a couple of successful plants that put out seed, and now I get a ton of arnica here. Even in our cool, very wet climate, arnica tends to like the mountains of Montana, and yet it seems happy here. Now there's acclimated, so I don't have to worry about that. Arnica is also really good for skin health, but I grow it specifically. Two main reasons. It's a very expensive herb to buy. It's one of the more expensive ones to get, the arnica flowers, but also it's excellent, especially combined with comfrey, for helping with bruises, sprains, and breaks. So that's the main reason why I grow arnica. And it always gets combined with the comfrey and a few other herbs that go into my joint and muscle rub. I use it in soaks like that a couple different times since I've had my channel. I've broken a toe, and I've used it for soaks with that. And it's excellent. The comfrey and the arnica is really, really good at helping to heal broken bones and sprains. So those are important to me. And I don't have to worry about it. These things grow like crazy. Some other things like for helping with immunity, since it seems like the echinacea and the mullein kind of troublesome growing these things here. Well, I've got the elderberries and flowers. I've got marshmallow, which is really good for colds and flus, and it's good for anything mucous membrane related. We've got the usnea. We've got turkey tail that grows wild as well. And then lamb's ear. Lamb's ear has similar properties to mullein, and it's a perennial. I don't have to worry about it. It comes back every year. And it puts out seed and tends to make new plants. Not as prolifically as maybe the feverfew that I use for pain, but that's another one I don't have to worry about. So why should I spend so much time and energy on things that don't grow so well for me, or I have to struggle with every year? Learn about them, yes. If I can get them to grow, good. Then I can combine it, because there's nothing wrong with having a few different herbs that have the same job, because one herb is going to work better for one person, and this herb over here that does the same thing will work better for that person, or maybe the combination of the two can make it even more powerful in whatever you're going to use it for. So really, that's my point. Learn about these things, but don't get so caught up in the fad over these things and feel like you have to have this or you have to grow this, especially if money and time is an issue, or just your physical abilities. Why do you want to keep fighting with something that's not going to work for you when there's very likely something that already grows around you in the wild that does the same thing, and you won't have to work at it other than what it take the time and effort it takes to gather it. That's where my focus is now, more so. I'll still keep trying to do videos on the benefits of this or that when I learn about something. Usually I wait until it's something I've used or am already growing. My focus more is to learn more about the things I can grow well. Borage is another one. It is an annual, but I never, ever, ever have to plant borage. I've got borage popping up all over out there. In fact, I have to weed it out because I get too much, and it will cover up my corn. I don't mind letting it grow among the corn as long as it gives the corn a chance to get taller. Because if it doesn't, the corn, if it shades it out, the corn's not going to grow. Like Billy was saying, to throw in the seeds in the ground, see what grows, then focus on that. And don't worry about the things that aren't going to do well. Now, you can still keep trying with something. I recommend if it's an herb or some kind of, even if it's a fruit or a vegetable you just want to grow because you like it, try it for a few years if you really, really want it. All it takes is sometimes just to get one plant that's going to put out seed that's a little more acclimated to your area, just like I did with the marshmallow. And then next thing you know, you got that plant coming out your ears. Sometimes that's all it takes. So it might take a little time and patience, and the arnica and the valerian and some of these other things. It's like dandelion and calendula have very, very similar benefits. They're pretty closely related too. So if it came right down to it, I wouldn't worry so much about the calendula as long as I have my dandelion. I'm good. But I do really like calendula, so I'm going to keep trying to grow it as long as I'm willing to and have the time and energy. So don't adapt your environment to your desires, adapt your desires to your environment. That's excellent advice. Another new favorite of mine, new within the last few years, is the lovage. That stuff is so great, and it's multi-purpose, high in quercetin, very good for you. And here I've got 2 very big, healthy plants. I haven't seen any new plants coming up from seed, but the plants I have just keep coming back and getting bigger every year. And so last year, I got a whole bunch of seed off of it. This year, my main focus is to get a whole bunch put up, both in the stalks in the form of to use as celery and soups and whatnot, and then the greens for, if I want to make tinctures out of it, but mostly for mixing in with my mixed greens that can go on anything. By the way, the leaves of the lovage have a much stronger celery taste than the stalk. The stalk tastes more like your standard celery, but the leaves are more powerful in that flavor. So people who don't like the taste of lovage leaves might not mind the taste of the stalks. So, because it is much more mild. Thanks again for coming in. Take care, and God bless.